awfully smooth tree. Welcome to I Like Batteries, the show where we explore the world of batteries. I'm Jeff Lynch.
And I'm Mike Muldoon. Good evening, Jeff Lynch. It's a rainy evening.
It's a rainy evening. It's better than a snowy evening.
Yeah, speaking of snowy evening, how'd you fare in the storm?
Yeah, so anyway, power was out, went out Saturday night around 8 o'clock. And the house here in Harpswell has a standby generator, auto switchover.
Yes.
But we weren't sure which circuits were running from the generator. Because there was some strange wiring happening in the garage when home inspector looked at it. So he's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But basically it ran the bare minimum. So it ran the
bare minimum
propane furnace, which is important. Right? So that runs the radiant floor heat, which, as we found out when we moved in, is hugely insufficient for this home. That being said, it also runs the well pump. That's important.
Water. Yes.
Heat. Refrigerator. 2 outlets in the living room. 1 light in the bathroom on the first floor. And I think that's it.
All right.
So no lights in the bedroom, no lights in the upstairs at all. And guess what's upstairs? Jeff's office and the internet connection. So,
but
out came the Rock Pals. Out came the Rock Pals.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So here's the difference. So as you know, I still have my mini UPSs, which I like.
Yes,
but
and you have them set up. See, we haven't gone off you set them up in the new house, but
yes, we've gone over this.
Yes, okay.
Or you and I have talked, but we haven't mentioned it on the show.
On the show, we're talking about this show that this thing we do. It's called I Like Batteries. This is a show.
Tell me more about.
Yeah, well, it's good. We could.
So the mini UPSs run my modem and my new Fidium wireless router.
Okay.
And thankfully, I've got less to run, like number of devices, because up in the office here, I have my computer, the 2 printers, and one other thing, hardwired on the back, the Ethernet jacks on the back of the Wi-Fi router from Fidium. So no extra switch to power, basically.
Got it.
But the modem uses very little power, so the battery backup for that lasted hours upon hours upon hours. It used to run Elliot like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 total, like the whole system would stay up. But after a couple hours, the internet went off. I'm like, oh. I knew I had the batteries up here, but the mini UPSs have 4 battery indicator lights. The one on the modem still had 3 available, 3 lights, so 3/4 full.
Okay. Yeah.
And the one that runs the Wi-Fi router was off, like done. Clear, dry. So I just took my Rock Pals, which is the power station I had here at home. I brought the EcoFlow River back from Boston. Because it's higher capacity, more outlets.
No, agreed. But that normally has been living in Boston.
Right. So I'm just going to bring the Rock Pals down to Boston. Just sort of the way I'm going to do it. But anyway, so I plugged both of the mini UPS brick plugs into the Rock Pals. And, in a couple minutes, the batteries charged up, started sending signal back, and we were good. That had, it ran all night and only used like 25% of the Rock Pal. So it was charging the battery and kept it going. So that was awesome. But then as we woke up Sunday, we weren't really sure of the severity of the storm. We're like, oh, what's happening out here? But then we looked outside and noticed like trees down. There was a huge branch that just missed Alice's car. And her car was coated with ice. easily a half inch of ice. Couldn't even open the doors. Like, had to use hot water to melt the ice around the seam of the door to even open it and move it.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. But after that, we decided, well, we should just go to Boston. We have this option to go to Boston. Let's just go to Boston. So off to Boston we go. As we're backing out of the driveway, Alice turns to me and says, well, hold on a minute. We stop the car. She says, something's different over here on the back corner of the driveway. I'm like, oh, that's strange. Yeah, it does look weird. What's that? And what appeared to be like the splinters of a tree sticking out of the ground. I'm like, wait a minute, that's an awfully smooth tree. It was the power pole on our house where the power line and the internet came, and it was on that tree. So the pole broke right off, not cleanly, but like fairly cleanly, right near the bottom. Boom. So something fell in the woods, pulled everything down. The power was out, but again, the wire of the internet was still up. So the fiber optic cable was still intact.
Fiber optics, baby.
Which was fantastic. And again, because it was running fine and didn't even notice. But anyway, so we took pictures of that. We sent pictures to Central Maine Power, and they assured us that they would get to us right after they restored as much power as they could elsewhere. So we go to Boston, and I work Monday. Tuesday, Alice came back north because we had an appointment with some window contractors who were coming. And Alice arrives at the house, and it's eerily quiet. We're like, oh, the generator's not running. And we had checked the propane before we left, and it was at 75%. So she checked the propane, and it was at 70%. Like, okay, we're not out of fossil fuel. And then she goes to the generator, and there's a little message. Failed to start, like low oil pressure. We're like, okay.
And you're like, that's not good that it was 75% and then to 70, because that means it didn't run that long after you left.
Well, we're not quite sure. The house was still warm-ish, so we weren't really sure how long it ran. It does a weekly test, auto test, and that seemed, everything was hunky-dory. But it was the first time we had this auto switchover, large-style fixed backup generator. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, she has her meeting with the contractors, and all goes well. We're looking at manuals and troubleshooting, and we get the dipstick cleaned, and there's really very little to no oil in the system. So it was a good thing it shut herself off. Awesome. And there happened to be a unused quart of 5W30 synthetic oil. So we dumped the entire quart. It takes a quart and a half, we found out, total. Okay. And so we put a quart in, and it didn't start back up. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So Alice called the generator people, and they basically said, oh yeah, just hold down this button for 5 seconds, and then it restarted and was running fine. Okay. But had she not come back, we wouldn't have known, and the house would have been really cold and all of this. So anyway, so that we add that of things that we have to manage.
Well, and if I'm going to throw this out, you're probably going to need a bigger generator.
Not probably. Definitely.
No, that probably fits too, because it does definitely. But so if it's probably, then yes.
Yeah. So, but the definitely is in the middle of May. The heat pump people are coming to install heat pumps. So
no, I understand. You're going to need more power.
You're going to need more power, but the question, than 8 kilowatts. So it's an 8 kilowatt.
Be a good, how much? But clearly the episode's title is, how much backup power do you need?
Yes. And I'll tell you in a few months.
Now and then.
Yes. So there's currently an 8 kilowatt generator that runs just those few circuits. So it is, I assume, largely underutilized for what it's currently running in the house.
I would say so. Yeah.
So I've got a call out to the generator people and basically saying, tell me what a whole house auto switchover transfer thing looks like. And then secondary to that, let's think about a bigger generator.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, so tell me, I know, with all your storm woes and your ability to need a bigger generator, have you started looking at all at solar to be able to charge some things up? Because you might need a little more batteries.
Yes. So there's two parts to this story.
Okay.
So long before the power went out, so I don't know, shortly after we bought the house in the middle of January, I got in touch with Revision Energy, who is a popular New England-based energy company, I will say. They do a lot of solar, but they do heat pumps. They do hybrid hot water heaters. They installed some of the heat pumps in my house in Elliott before we moved. But they had a long wait for a solar eval. So that happened last week, and I am going to share the actual numbers, the actual results of the evaluation.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So this is pretty cool. So the idea is to have as much as possible. So they did the measurements and went back and did their little CAD drawing thing, which apparently has some, it's not just a layout tool, but it has an additional weather and sun penetration, roof shading data in it. So they can basically give you a score of the percentage of light that will hit your roof throughout the year, including shade from trees and all that stuff. So that basically they get a percentage efficiency of the panel. So if it's a 400 watt panel, et cetera, they'll basically say, oh, that's not going to give you 400 watts. It's going to give you an average of 375 or 350 or whatever. But anyway, so they maximized the layout on the roof, and they are proposing 32 425 watt US made solar panels by a company called Q Cells, the letter Q Cells. So that is a system that it's a 13.6 kilowatt solar system. Solar system. So funny. And it's estimated to produce 13,000 kilowatt hours annually. And based on electric usage from our previous house, because we haven't been here long enough and we don't have the heat pump installed yet, but our house in Elliott was a larger house, had two ducted heat pump systems in it. And I think we were in the 15,000 kilowatt hour annual consumption down there. So this is likely to hit maybe close to 95% of our usage here, which is fantastic. The cost of the system, there's two ways you can buy these outright if you'd like. If we were to do that, it's a cost of about $42,000. But there's a 30% federal tax credit to the tune of $12,600 and something dollars. So the net cost is just shy of $30,000.
So if I'm just saying $2 per watt generated ish. You said 15
per kilowatt. So
yeah, not $2 a kilowatt. I was going $2 a watt.
Yeah. Oh, $2. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, approximately, I guess. Think of it that way. The other option, which you can do there, is you can finance it, and it just basically gives you your ROI situation. So if you pay for it, if you pay cash, just to complete that thought, the break-even point is about 9 years in. If you go straight away. The curve looks very different if you get a loan, but same system cost. With their loans, they do what they call a 15-month pay down. So it would start out at $290 a month. And then after 15 months, they expect you to use the 30% federal tax credit to pay down that $12,000 or so dollars of the loan amount. And if you do that, then the rest of the payments over the 20-year period would be $250 a month. But if you don't do that, if you just let it be, then the cost goes up like to $360 a month. If you do the loan and you satisfy the loan through its entire maturity. But it's a not as expensive way to get into solar, right? You can get it installed and you don't have this big upfront cost. So for us, the biggest restriction with moving forward is we need a new roof. So,
good point.
So we have to do that first. And that's, we're just starting that quoting process, but that would be a prerequisite to any work done on the system.
Yeah. Matt Farrell did a comparison of solar roof panels versus solar shingles, which was interesting.
Oh, was there a conclusion you recall, or?
Well, another gentleman did it, and it was very close in terms of the price because you don't have as much usable roof area with panels.
Right.
So with shingles, you're getting more. The one drawback he was saying, I think, was that he was using the Tesla roof shingles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that potential upgrades and then damage and replacing. And so there was a little bit of difficulty truly telling which was a better ROI.
Yeah, I imagine, I don't know, I can just imagine, I don't know if those tiles are individual tiles and they all have to be wired separately or what the interconnects look like.
There's some type of microinverter that's with each of the sections, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But what he did say, and you don't think about this as they did comparisons, I would suggest if you kind of just look it up on YouTube, you can find it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I was watching, I think, when I was at the gym, so I might not have been catching everything. Was he did you don't think about it, you're replacing your roof. And I guess they're very similar to that of a metal roof. So he was just comparing, it's like if you took a metal roof and put it on, there'd be a cost to that as well. But so you're getting the solar benefit, but you're also getting the new roof.
Right. So you don't have the cost of the roof, right? Yeah.
Right. Well, you still have the cost of a roof, but it's like
right, not a roof and solar. It's just a solar roof.
Yes, it was interesting. It was definitely was like a worthwhile exploration if you have to replace the roof.
Yeah.
So
I know they do. Revision does do. I know they do Tesla Powerwall battery backup systems. We did not have them spec any of that for us. The other conversation that I had with Eric from Revision was surrounding Lion Energy, actually the Sanctuary battery backup, because for those of you who don't know, maybe you do, a traditional, call it traditional, I don't know if it's traditional, but the most common solar connectivity is what is called grid tied solar. So the solar panels come down to the inverter, because solar panels produce DC power and your house needs AC power. So that the conversion needs to happen through the inverter. But then it's just fed essentially along the same line as your grid power. So when the sun is out, it's using the sun, so you're not pulling from the grid. But if your house calls for more than that, then it pulls from the grid. But if, like happened over the weekend, power goes out, your solar goes out as well. Mm-hmm. So the Lion Energy solution has the battery backup, the batteries themselves, but the batteries are then fed from multiple sources. So you could effectively have your solar, your grid power, and even a backup generator all feed the Lion Energy Sanctuary battery system, which could then feed your house. So this is another interesting thing to me, because I have all of those things or will have all of those things present. If we, I shouldn't say if, like when we move forward with solar here. So,
right.
it's something to, I don't want to rush into doing this, but at least, there's the cost. I mean, there's a real world estimate for a house in Harpswell, Maine.
Yeah, true. You know what you really have to be somewhat concerned about, Jeff, is when batteries degrade. Because if you did have a Lion Energy Sanctuary or you had a Tesla Powerwall, you'd start to see them degrade. And you know what would be neat is if you could have a battery that just kind of started to heal itself. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be marvelous, wouldn't it?
And theoretically, it exists.
In theory.
In theory. Like, it would almost be as if, it would be like Wolverine as he would heal himself.
Sure.
And in fact, there is something like that. And of course, what we're hinting on is the fact that scientists at, I believe, the University of San Diego, did I get that right?
Yeah, UC San Diego.
Versus actually going to the article, is that they found batteries that could extend their own ability to regenerate. And I love this part of the article, and I'll say the way they described these batteries was super cool. It said UC San Diego experts take it to another level with the sulfur cathode that has a rejuvenative ability seemingly fit for the Marvel universe. I mean, how cool is that?
That is very cool.
And in fact, it's actually warm because these batteries, what they would do is they would take a temperature that's, I guess they're calling moderately warm, in a little over 100 degrees, that could be able to make it so the problems that we see with some lithium cells could be solved with some sulfur, I believe, is essentially what they're saying. Right?
Sulfur and iodine, right. Yeah, so
iodine,
they're saying that the cathode can have structural damage, which we've talked about on the show before, which doesn't get any better. And to solve the problem, they made a cathode crystal from sulfur and iodine. And basically, this discovery had a larger impact than they thought. It increased the conductivity by 11 orders of magnitude. And these numbers are crazy, making it 100 billion times more conductive than crystals made of sulfur alone. So they're pretty excited.
This is good. The don't get too excited, folks, because this is theoretical in the lab, and we've seen a lot. It's kind of like saying solid state batteries, and we talked about those multiple years ago. And it's like, yeah, they're not quite in the market yet, but I think the exploration of such things is important because I think they're going to get better. And honestly, things that heal themselves are really good. And this brings us to another article, which is your own body, which, oftentimes as people, and I see this obviously in my day job as a physical therapist, who have implantable devices, whether it's a pacemaker, a defibrillator, it could be a neurostimulator for the back, and all of those run off batteries. The problem is when you have to replace the batteries that are in there. But another article...
Yeah, the humans don't like that so much, do they?
Well...
I mean, given the alternatives, I understand, but...
It's infection, right? I mean, the thing is you have an implantable device, bacteria potentially landing there and having to get that out. But what this one company was able to find is batteries. And these are scientists in China. So they developed a soft, flexible battery that uses oxygen in the blood to help generate electricity and potentially extend the life of medical implants in the body. So this is really cool. And it's not surprising, though, because we have seen oxygen-based batteries that are in the news and coming out, and they're basically called iron air batteries. So it's not surprising if you said, hey, we're just going to try and recapture the oxygen in the body to be able to utilize that to make this happen. But a lot of theoreticals out there. I don't think this is something that everybody has going on right now, but super cool.
Yeah, there's obviously challenges, and so they were saying in theory the devices could rely on the chemical reactions with oxygen or with glucose in the blood for their energy, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But their designs would need to keep, obviously, the electronic components would need to be in contact with the blood for continuous energy supply. This is a challenge from a safety and stability perspective. But they're correct. They're using materials that are known to be biocompatible, so like gold and sodium, and this is, I mean, these discoveries all start somewhere, and it's a promising sort of thing that we're hearing about.
Oh yeah, so and they actually did it because the researchers implanted the battery under the skin of some rats, and they found the device could produce a steady voltage of 1.3 volts with a maximum power density of 2.6 microwatts per square centimeter. And they compared it to a recent glucose fuel cell that achieved 0.6 volts, but a maximum power density of, I think it's 43 microwatts.
Microwatts per square centimeter. Yeah.
Per square centimeter. Yeah. So this, I mean, there's some promise here, and it's good, but more to come. I think these are all great advances. It just goes to show so many years ago, here we are saying, like, I don't know if there'll be enough content to talk about on a show about batteries. And now here we have batteries that are going to be recharged via oxygen in a bloodstream. I mean, that's just amazing. So that way you could do that so that you could ride on your bike like I have and be able to charge your EcoFlow that you could use to be able to power your fiber optic cable and router so you could stay in your house and work on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
See how that
I do
whole
have
thing,
a.
like, just kept going.
I saw that. Yeah, and could have it at my standing desk. I could be cycling at my standing desk. What would that be like?
You could be,
I suppose.
But you know, it'd be cooler is if you're cycling and you were charging the battery in your Ferrari.
That would be amazing.
Well, first off, it'd be amazing because you have a Ferrari. But secondly,
right. Yes.
What would be even more amazing is, like, I had no idea Ferrari was in the article I saw here. They're expanding their battery partnership. I was like, wait a minute, you're expanding your battery partnership? First off, that if you expand it, it means you had to have a battery partnership to begin with.
Exactly. Yes. So this led to the obvious question that Mike and I explored, which was, so Ferrari has an EV? Question mark. And the answer is it's coming. And
and the other answer is kind of. And because, I mean, is a plug-in hybrid an EV?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I mean, Greenwave sells them, right? So it's an EV. You can get You can get an EV plate on a hybrid. Yes.
Well, and to be clear, Greenwave sells plug-in hybrids. We're not saying Greenwave sells these Ferrari plug-in hybrids. Just to be clear, our audience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't want Jesse to be like, "You told people I sell Ferraris." Like, no, we didn't. I'm so sorry. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So basically, Ferrari's got a plug-in hybrid, and it is called, what was the name?
The SF90 Stradale. It is presumably coming out at the end of 2025. It'll go.
And it uses
go ahead.
How much? I was saying, I missed it too. I was going to say how much its energy consumption was 120 watt hours per kilometer. But I know you're more focused on the speed,
on the acceleration. Yes, that's what most people want to know. Yeah. So 2.5 seconds to 62 miles an hour, because they claim they talk in kilometers per hour. So 0 to 62 in 2.5 seconds. 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, which is roughly 120 miles an hour, in 6.7 seconds. So how do they do this? Well, they do this with all-wheel drive. They do this with a V8 engine and some really sophisticated powertrain and delivery systems, and a 162 kilowatts of electric power from hold on to your hats, 7.9 kilowatt hour battery.
I mean, come on, like, it's not really. That's like you've got a couple EcoFlows running there.
Yeah,
I mean that's not exactly a ton of power.
No, they're using it efficiently, no doubt. But yeah, a lot of that comes from the fact that there's a V8 there. Obviously, you get the torque from that, so they're using this technology to get the car going, and then obviously the V8 ICE engine takes over. I'm sure it's lovely. And I'm sure I will never own one.
What's really cool, and I don't know why I like it, but if you click on the thing, it has a vortex generator, which just sounds amazing. But it's talking about how the rear downforce is balanced from the front of the car by a complex and optimized system of vortex generators.
Mm-hmm.
I just want a vortex generator. I mean, really, is what I'm looking for.
There you go.
I mean,
well, a lot of this comes from Formula One technology. So, modern Formula One cars, especially the new ones that came out in 2022, are called they work on downforce, and it's part of their design process is to create little vortices under the floor of the car. Call them ground effect cars, and it sucks the car to the ground. So you don't have to have as much downforce from aerodynamic downforce, like mechanical downforce. So the car basically will suck itself to the road. And it's one of those theoretical can drive upside down things because it has so much downforce.
This is so
This
cool.
car in particular cannot drive upside down, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, regardless, it theoretically, from what they're saying, is the fastest plug-in hybrid.
Sure. Let's do it.
Which I don't doubt. Like I don't doubt that. It's like you tell somebody I have the fastest plug-in hybrid. I'm like, well, first off, I would expect that from Ferrari, but it's just one of those things, folks. I mean, clearly we like batteries, and Ferrari's got a plug-in hybrid. I mean, if you're asking yourself, like, where is the world going to in terms of EVs? There it is.
Well, that's one way if you want a hybrid, right? But there's plenty of other battery-only performance cars that'll match this.
Well, wasn't it the Neo that we saw? I can't remember what the name of the actual car was, but Neo had the full battery vehicle that was like, I think it was the fastest technically road production car. And you needed like a whole team to be able to deliver it in one night. I can't remember the name of it, but we did cover one of our shows because we were talking about Neo.
It was the EP9.
To swap. The EP9. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, EP9. And that was, I mean, what was it, 0 to 60, if you saw it?
One moment, please.
It was fast, though. It was super fast. But I think the difference there was that is a pure EV because of the size of the batteries. And, of course, since it's Neo, they were swappable batteries that you could be able to swap in and out of the car because that's
about the
Neo
same.
does.
2.7 seconds to 60.
Oh, 2.7 versus we're talking 2.5. Yeah, you're faster. So it's
heavier too, right? So
it's because it's got bigger batteries. It's a whole
more
EV.
battery. Yeah.
I'm just going to use that. I'm going to just say, yeah, definitely. And speaking of batteries, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this show. Hopefully it charged your batteries up or at least got them to 80%. And we hope you have a great week. We hope your power stays on. And if not, hopefully you get some battery backup at home.
Yeah, we hope Jeff's power stays on too.
Agreed.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.